what's expected of
Shoot. Good. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Justin from Justice League Swag, and today I'm doing a deck profile on the deck that I played at New York Regionals. I forgot to do a deck profile on this because I was going to take it to Ohio, but a lot of the people that were supposed to be going with me backed out at the last minute, so yeah, didn't end up going. So first off, the buddy is Stiju still, just because he's a size 0. The lifelink worries me a bit, but ideally with this deck you want to deal as much damage as fast as possible, so it's not a problem if you're dealing damage faster to your opponent than they could keep up. And then it's like the only decks that this doesn't do well against is, I think, Raging Spirits. Raging Spirits, you have to side hard for that. So 4 of the buddy, because he's 2 crit. He can actually be 3 crit if you have Gallows Gustus on the field. So that's why I'm going with this guy, because he's the only Shadow Diver size 0 with 2 crit at the moment. Next up, still size 0s. Only 3 Gallows SD, just because you have to have a death in the drop zone in order to play him. Maximum he could get up to is about like 3 crit if you play Judgment Day as well as have Gallows Gustus on the field. He's more for pressure or prolonging the game that gain life if you can't end your opponent fast enough. 2, Death Ruler Burial. Only 2 just because Hero World is a thing, and having low monster attacks are not something you should be shooting for with Death Rulers. There's a Death Ruler, I said this before, that's like Black Dragon as well. He becomes 3 critical if your opponent has 4 more cards in the drop zone, and he becomes 5k attack. So that would be more ideal for the deck in the future. Next up, Gate God or Limbo. This guy's really good right now just because of his attack power, but he can only be played on the sides. I max him at 4 because more than likely having like 1 on each side and the Gallows Gustus in the center still makes him pretty devastating. But ideally I would knock this down to 3 if the new Black Dragon came out with Shadow Dive. Then Gallows Gustus 3. I don't want to max it because you want to see this, but if you see it too early, like too many of them, and you can't get a monster out on the field, you may end up not being able to deal any damage for a turn. And being able to deal damage every turn is very important with this deck. Even if you start first, you want to hit your opponent for whatever you can, like the maximum amount. So my favorite start card is Death Ruler Raukalakis. Use this guy because he has Soul Guard. You don't have to waste shields. You can just let him absorb all blows, and then you could get him back with something like Death Hiding or the Impact later, or just play another one from your hand. So it's like really good. And then with Gallows Gustus on the field, he can hit like a lot of Hero World decks without link attacking. This card, Mellow I run 2. I need another parallel 4, but 2 ideally. For the most part, I always charge this guy unless I'm fighting against Raging Spirits or Hero World. It just makes link attacks easier, and he can hit a lot of Spirit decks alone until they start tossing stuff in the soul. Then like late game with Gallows Gustus in the field, and you play Hellwalter Gate. Bringing him back with double attack 2 crit is really good to finish out the game. So just 2. And then lastly for the monsters, just 2 Death Ruler Blix. This deck typically doesn't go over size 2s, just so I can always have a full field and abuse Gallows Gustus. Like, this is one of the best cards to abuse him with. 1 Gustus on the field, and then like a Judgment Day played will make your opponent have a very bad deck. Like, I've OTK'd so many people with this deck. We're going to go into the spell lineup. Death Astray, you only ever need 1. Judgment Day, as I said, is really good, but it's like I only run 2 just because if you don't have that full field setup that you want or the impact, playing it is pretty pointless unless you can get off of multiple attacks with a full field. But it helps the OTKs so much faster. Death Hiding, 2. Just to get back anything that I want from the drop zone, if I need damage or I need a particular monster to get it back, like Rock Relakis, just for his Soul Guard ability. After talking to John Mayer, I actually started running this at 4, just because it's like the backbone of the deck. It literally says your opponent can't touch anything that you play. So I really love this card. I love it for any death deck because counters don't work. So your opponent just has to deal with the damage unless they're playing a redirect deck. Only 2 daily boosts just because you lose all of your gauge after you play it. So you want to get everything out when you drop something like that. I don't know if I was mean. No, I'm side decking Graveyard for this deck. Just 2 Abyss Symphony. You don't want your life to drop too fast, so 2 is good. 3 would be okay if you want to, but I usually only run 2 Abyss Symphony in any deck. And it's also so that you could life break with Death for Stray and then cast Abyss Symphony. It's a really good combo if you draw into it. Then for shields, only 3 Midnight Shadow. 3 Midnight Shadow because I want to be able to protect my monsters. Most of the time the center is closed. So this is the best shield and it's a death attribute. Then the other shield I use is now 3 Apocalypse Shield because I saw that just running 4 shields in the deck before wasn't enough, so I run 3 Apocalypse Shield because it is a death attribute and you can block for any of your monsters as well as yourself. So having your center open or closed doesn't matter, and then it helps get death attribute cards in the drop zone faster by paying a gauge. I actually run this instead of Death Grip now. I side Death Grip because in the rush deck I only want to run Death Grip if I'm being out rushed. And a lot of like rush decks have like Soul Guard, so Death Grip has been pointless most of the time for most of my matchups. Devil Stigma, I run at 4. It's just a stall. Gaining the 1 life helps whenever your opponent has to swing at a center monster and then miss, so that you don't have to waste a nullify on an attack unless it's like 3 or 4 critical. Then finally, How Walter Gate, I run at 3. You could run it at 4 because it's like a huge finisher of the deck. But the deck can OTK without even seeing this card. But it helps so much. Alright guys, that's all we have for Shadow Dive basically today. Any issues that you would have any other decks would probably be Hero World and Raging Spirit. So you just want to side Greybards for Raging Spirits, and then you want to side item destruction. Like Guillotine Cutter is really good for Hero World matches because ideally you want to destroy their items while they're attacking to throw them off if they can be destroyed. Unless you run into Kazarian or something like that with double attack. Then you want to also side Barbed Wires. So those are the only decks I really had problems with other than Fifth Omni. Fifth Omni was only when I didn't see the set spell Hades. Otherwise, it really didn't matter. But I made some poor judgment calls myself, I guess, this time around. So didn't do as well as I wanted to. But I'm probably going to be doing a deck profile on my Black Dragon deck. So stay tuned.